Welcome to the podcast hosted by timecam.com on how to stay on top of your work.
Hi guys, welcome back. This is Kate, and today my guest is Susanne Madsen, an internationally recognized project leadership coach, trainer, and consultant. She's the author of the Project Management Coaching Workbook and The Power of Project Leadership. Susanne is the founder and director of Susanne Madsen International Ltd. Susanne works with organizations globally and across industries to help their managers become better leaders and gain control of their projects. So hello, Susanne. How are you today?
Hi, Kate. I'm very well. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. I'm very happy you can be here with me today.
Likewise.
It's my pleasure. Yes. Okay, so to begin with, I'd like to ask you what made you choose the particular area of expertise in your career, and what are your professional interests?
So I really have, I would say, two areas of expertise because I was a project manager. Well, I started out in project management 20 years ago. I am actually originally Danish, but now I've lived in England, in London, for 18 years.
Oh.
So I started my career in Denmark as a project manager, and I actually didn't choose it. I kind of fell into it. I think a lot of project managers do that. There was a gentleman where I worked. He was coding websites, and I began to sell them and work with the customers and organize getting the work done. So I fell into project management in that way. And then after I moved to England, it became more serious, I would say, and I became a consultant and I worked in financial services for a number of years. So I was in project management for probably a good solid 15, 18 years. And then I felt a lot of pressure. I really did. I was running a very big project and I was quite stressed. And my project sponsor kept saying to me, relax, Susanne, you're not going to get fired. But the two project managers before me had been fired. And the survival of the department I was working for actually depended on this project. So I felt there was a lot of pressure. But it just so happened that I attended a leadership course, a 5-day leadership course. And that basically changed everything for me because in this leadership course, we were learning about our own personal preferences, our own leadership styles, but we were also being coached. So we were being given a 1-hour coaching session, and I really had a big aha moment in that coaching session because I came to the session, you have to come with a problem. And I came with a problem, help, I'm exhausted, what do I do? Should I choose something different from project management? And I actually ended up with feeling very empowered that, I can make changes. It doesn't have to be exhausting to be a project manager, even though I work in financial services. And it was so empowering for me. I didn't have the exact answer. I just knew that there were answers out there. And I began to study coaching after that. And one thing led to the other. I became a coach after, 10 months later. And I began to coach project managers in parallel with my day job as a project manager. And one thing led to the other. And I thought at some point, I have to do this full time. So 5 years ago, I made the decision to step away from full-time project management. My big kind of, you're asking also about my professional interests. The growing interest and passions that I found was project managers need leadership. And coaching became a tool for me to help them create more awareness about how they were working and create better choices. And so 5 years ago, I stepped away and now I run project leadership workshops full-time. I run project management workshops and I coach. I do a lot of coaching by Skype as well.
Okay, that's great. So as a coach, what basic rules or tips would you give to people who want to be successful in project management and in leadership?
Oh, that's a good question. So from my point of view, I see a lot of project managers who are very good with the tasks side. So they may have a qualification or they may not have a qualification. I think that's the basic. The basic step is to get the task side right. So be good at planning with the team and understand benefits and understand risk management. There are some basics. And when I coach project managers, we sometimes begin with that. But a session or two later, we're done. Normally, that's not the problem for project managers. They understand, mostly they understand the task side. Above that is really about people. And that's where I coach most project managers, is gaining the buy-in from stakeholders, gaining the buy-in from the team members. So one thing I find very important is collaborative planning. Don't just sit and plan on your own because you feel as a project manager it's your area of expertise. You have to do it. Yeah, but involve the team, do it with the team. Otherwise, the team is not going to feel that they have a stake in it. They're not going to feel engaged and involved, so they won't really care. And the same with the stakeholders. The stakeholders are actually clients. It's very, very important that we have a good relationship with them. We understand what they need, what they want. They're not just some annoyance somewhere, that they're really the reason why we do projects are for the stakeholders. So that's really what I work with people on, is to add that people element to the task side.
Okay, so when you talk about team and like working with people, with clients, I think about TimeCam, because we are a software that helps to manage tasks and projects, but also it helps to manage people and time. Do you think the use of such tools can be helpful in managing a team and in work with clients?
Absolutely. Could you tell me a bit more about the tool?
It's a time tracking software which basically tracks the work hours of employees. And there are many functions such as budgeting, billing, task planning, and project and task management.
Yeah, I think it's very important that we get the basics right. And I think such tools can help us to get the basics right. After all, a project is about delivering something on time and doing it to the required quality and doing it to the required budget. And so these aspects need to be tracked. We don't have infinite time. We don't have infinite money. And there needs to be an answer to tracking that and monitoring. So absolutely, but it's not the only answer. Some people use a tool and they think this is the only answer and I don't have to communicate with anybody, or they do it just to tick the box. But we need to apply thinking to everything we do. So I always think of tools and techniques as a starting point. But of course, it's not the end. It shouldn't be the end point. There's more to it.
Okay, so still, when we talk about team management and the leadership, what is a perfect feature of a good leader? Do we need some certain strategies or practices and techniques, or not really?
Another very good question. A good leader in project management, right? A good project leader is somebody who has a good amount of emotional intelligence, amongst other things. But that's one of the things that really distinguish a old-fashioned manager to a really good leader. So a manager is more somebody who tells people what to do and expects control and monitors stuff, whereas a good project leader is somebody who is more focused on what's in it for each individual person. Why would each person on my team want to be part of my project? What's in it for them? Because yes, we need to deliver a project, but if my team members are also learning some cool new technology and it motivates them, great, it's a win-win situation. And the more win-win situations we have, the better. So the emotional intelligence I'm talking about is, there's actually 4 aspects of it. The first aspect is, for me, each individual to understand my own emotions. What's really going on for me? Most of us live in our head. If you ask people what you feel, they're like, what do you mean what I feel? Ask me what I think. But we've got to be aware of our feelings, because we're actually human beings and we have a lot of feelings. And so in a project, if you don't like a certain stakeholder or you get provoked by a team member, it creates a reaction in you. And so we need to be aware of how we're feeling. And the second step is to actually manage those feelings. Somebody might insult you, but it doesn't mean you have to insult them back. somebody may ask you to do something last minute, and you get anxious, and you just want to say, no, I can't do it. Can you not see I'm busy? And you might think, is that the right way of responding? So emotional intelligence is noticing how we feel and being aware how we respond, so we have the best effect on the team. And the two last aspects are doing the same with other people. So being able to feel what's going on for others is called empathy. So really being able to walk in somebody else's shoes. And how do we do that? We do that by asking questions and listening, talking less, asking more and listening, and then use that to build good relationships and trust. Good leadership without that does not exist.
That sounds really, really inspiring, actually, to respect other people and take care of them and their feelings. That's a good advice, I think. So let's change the subject a little bit. You are a woman in a business world. Mm-hmm. I like to ask you if it's difficult to be a woman in, I think, such a difficult world which just basically filled with men. How do you feel as a woman in a business world?
Well, there are as many women as there are men. So I'm going to challenge your perception, because you use the word difficult. And if we see it as difficult, I think we will find it difficult. So I have, of course, always been a woman. I've always done what I do. I've loved to work in corporate, and I've really enjoyed every aspect of it. I've never, ever experienced anything negative. In fact, probably the opposite. People have often found it refreshing to have a woman work with them. I even now get people who ask for women project leadership facilitators because they don't want it all to be men. So I think it depends how we look at it. And I think it really depends on our own attitudes. I coach a lot of women and men. And unfortunately, what I find is that a lot of people have low self-esteem, and they doubt themselves. And if we doubt ourselves, then other people can feel it. And that often means in a work environment, some people will try to take advantage of that. They might bully you, although bullying is a strong word. They might just do a very slight form of that. They might try to control people or whatever. And if you're a woman, you might see that as discrimination, but I think men feel that as they also feel sometimes ignored or disrespected, but they just don't, they call it something else, right? So I think it all comes back to how we feel inside ourselves. So my advice to people would be, work on your own self-esteem. We all have a light to shine. We all are beautifully unique in what we do. And if we really feel that, and some people can't even look themselves in a mirror, it's really a shame. If we really have to strengthen our self-love, then I think other people will respect us more, because we are strong in ourselves. Whether we are a man or a woman, we have to begin with ourselves and put ourselves in high regard.
That sounds so amazing.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes a complete sense. It sounds really great. So let's talk about your books, because you're the author of 2 books. The first one is The Power of Project Leadership, and the second one is the PM Coaching Workbook.
Yes.
Can you tell us something more about your books and maybe show them?
Yes, I can. So the first one I wrote, it came out in 2012. It's a big one. It's a workbook. So inside there are spaces for people to write answers. I'm trying to see if I can find a page with actually there are spider diagrams for people to fill in answers and work through with gap analysis. So basically what the first book is, the idea is that it's a book for people who may not have the money for a coach. So they take the coaching workbook and they are coached through how to become a better project manager. So it's not a book that teaches people how to coach in projects. It's the other way around. It's a book that coaches people through a project. So it really begins by looking inwards, because that's really what we do. That's what we do as coaches. We help people find out what their strengths are, what their vision is, where they really want to go. And in the book, I create a gap analysis. So where are you now? So there's actually a 360 in here. You can give that assessment to your peers and your stakeholders, and they can give you feedback. So you, on the one hand, you have an assessment of where am I currently, and on the other hand, where do I want to go? And there's a gap. Yeah, there may be a gap. And so based on that gap, the rest of the book guides you through practices that will help you to close that gap. And so that came out in 2012, which is a while ago now. And the second book is quite different. The second book I was asked by a publisher to write. It came out in 2015. And I wrote it the first year I was working for myself. And it's really about the leadership aspects of project management. So not so much about the tools and the techniques, but really more about the teams. And there are 7 keys in the book to project leadership. And the first one is be authentic. The second one is lead with vision. And then we have improve and innovate. So there's a lot in the book about how to create innovative teams, how to really create a different mindset and not just be controlling about the project. Then the 4th key is about empower the team. The 5th key is about the stakeholders, getting close to the stakeholders. And the 6th key is about a solid foundation. So that's actually really about the tools and the techniques, because it has to be said, but it's a minor part of it. And then the 7th key is to work with intent. And that's really all about focus. It's about a time management focus, which I think you're interested in as well. But I have to tell you that my latest book has also been translated into Chinese.
Oh,
so
wow.
That's quite. I can't read it, of course, but it looks different. It's the same book, just in Chinese.
Congratulations! I'm happy for you. That's great. So you're the author, but author also get some inspirations from. What inspires you to, even in your work and your like working with other people? What inspires you, to be the person you are and to write what you write, and maybe books you read?
So there are some books that have really inspired me, but I think on a daily basis, maybe not on a daily basis, but on a weekly basis, it's really actually podcasts.
Oh.
So I don't know if they're competitive podcasts to yours. They probably are, but I like People and Projects podcast. It's an Andy Kaufman. I think he's definitely North America, whether it's Chicago or somewhere in the vicinity. Then there is Timothy Ferriss, or Tim Ferriss. He's written the book, The 4-Hour Work Week, which is actually one of the books that I have here as well. I have found that very inspiring. And it's all about productivity. It's all about personal productivity. And the reason why the book is so thick is because this became a bestseller. Do you know it?
No, I don't. But it looks interesting.
It's very interesting. And after it became a bestseller, people wrote to him about how they'd implemented the ideas. And so in the second edition, he put all of those readers' stories inside the book. So I think it grew, with 100 pages.
Oh, I'm definitely going to read it.
And his podcast is really good. He interviews high performers. So he's interested in peak performance. He interviews sports stars, business stars. There's not really, I think, a limit for who he interviews, just people and their habits and he's very interested in all sorts of tips that will make people high performing, irrespective of the area they work in. So I love his podcast. And then another, I think, classic project management podcast that I listen to is the Project Management Podcast with Cornelius Fichtner. He might have been one of the original guys, one of the first ones to do a podcast in project management. But so I like podcasts. I like the TED Talks. But of course, they're more inspiring rather than, I think, productivity or project management related. The books that have inspired me are, I think, not so much in project management, more I take other areas and bring it into project management. And of course, as a coach, and I would recommend for people who want to know more about coaching, this one is called Coaching for Performance by John Whitmore. And it's really, really good. And it's about coaching in a business environment. This is not about project management. But the principles of coaching are really the same, no matter what area we're in. It's about asking good questions, relating to others, really listening. And he has got in this book a lot of examples, as example dialogue, which I like. Another coaching book, if people are a bit more serious about coaching, Coactive Coaching. This is actually from a lady in the States who's founded also a school where you can learn coaching. And she's called Laura Whitworth. And then more productivity books. So we talked about the 4-hour work week already, but another one which I must mention is Eat That Frog. It's been on the, do you know it?
I've heard about it.
It's been on the New York Times bestselling list. I mean, I don't know if it is anymore, but it used to be also one of the best-selling business books. And it's not a big read. I mean, the version I got for some reason is, I don't know if you can see it, it's got very big text in it. It's for people who have difficulties reading. I didn't realize when I bought it. So it's actually quite a small book normally. And it's a quick read and it's all about how to overcome procrastination. It's called Eat That Frog, and the frog is a symbol of the task that we're procrastinating on. And what Brian Tracy says is just eat the ugliest frog first thing in the morning. So just get it done. You know, if you are procrastinating on writing a certain presentation, just set time aside, just get it done. You know, don't procrastinate and don't listen to all the voices all day saying, you know, I know you need to get this done and that done. Mm-hmm. So when you read the book, it really makes you just want to sit down and get your work done. And another very different type of book that really helped me as a very stressed out project manager was this beautiful Meditation for Busy People. And obviously the title appealed to me when I bought it because I thought, that's me, I'm busy. I need meditation for busy people. And it's such a beautiful book, which isn't about techniques. It's more about just reading it makes you slow down and the mindset is really nice. And the last book I have here, which has meant a lot to me, is Be Your Own Best Life Coach. It is Fiona Herald, and it's really for somebody who would like to be guided through what's important to them in their life. If people are not really sure if they're on the right path, I think it's a great book. So they would be my recommendations.
Okay, I think I have the last question to you, or maybe actually two more. The first one is, what is the number one rule that you use in your work that you cannot imagine your life without?
You mean for getting my work done, or for?
Yes.
So really, I think focus is the most important thing for getting my work done, because I'm out a lot running workshops, and when that's obviously different rules. It's all about connecting with the participants and listening. But when I'm at home, it's about getting things done. And I blog a lot as well. So my blog, SusanneMadsen.com. For the last 6-7 years, I think I've been writing a blog every month. And I always, and I'm sure people will recognize this, we all have some tasks that we tend to procrastinate on. And for me, it's blogging, because when I write a blog, it's a different mode. I need to sit down and I need to be more creative. It's not just, doing stuff. It's different. Writing is different. And so the way I kind of can help myself, and maybe other people can too, is approaching it by maybe structuring it. What am I going to write about? What are some of the topics? What are some of the headings? Do some research. So I then gently approach the topic if I find it difficult to get done. And then, but focus, it's all about focus. And for me, it works to actually put music on and listen to music in my headphones. The kind of music that just ticks along in the background for me. It just means I get in my zone. So I think whatever people need to do to get in the zone, for me, it's that there's some other things. So focus is what helps me get my work done.
Okay, so I think my last question is actually connected with this I just asked you. because the podcast is titled How to Stay on Top of Your Work. So how do you stay on top of your work beside focus?
Yeah, so I guess if we have focus, we can get it all done. But I also have to-do lists. I have my to-do list right here. So I just have a Word. I just have a paper-based version. I make ticks when it's done, or I strike through, and then after a week I may write a new list. And I think different things work for different people. Some people like to have it electronic because they can access it anywhere. I just like the old-fashioned one, works for me. And there's also the 10-minute rule, which means that once you start something, you will have a tendency to want to finish it. So that can be a good one for people as well. And but basically, eat the frog is what I talked about before. Just getting things done early on in the day with a single-minded focus. Multitasking is a myth. We can't actually do several things at once. The brain just is not built for it. So it's really all about doing things in blocks of time. So set an hour aside for this, then do something else, then set another hour aside for something else. So create some variety, but have blocks of time where you do stuff, and give yourself a reward. So go for that cup of tea when you've done that, whatever it is, that small rewards we can give ourselves. What else do I do? I think another day is about doing the things that we love to do, because if we do the things we love to do, then work is something we want to complete. And we look forward to writing that blog, or to preparing that workshop, or doing that project, because at the end of the day, we're passionate about delivering value to the clients. Did that answer the question?
Yes, you did. You did, in a really inspiring way.
Oh, lovely.
Yes. Susanne, that will be the end of our interview. I'm really happy I could have you here today. So thank you for the interview, and I wish you a lot of success and happiness. And
thank you. You too, Kate. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Have a nice day.
Thank you. You too.
Bye.
Bye-bye. And if you guys want to find out more about Susanne Madsen, you can find information about my guest under the podcast. So make sure to check it out and follow her on social media. And I see you next time. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.
This podcast was brought to you by Tancam. You can listen to it on iTunes and SoundCloud. Subscribe to get more content and always stay on top of your work.